established rich coming right back at you. Today I want to talk about something that hit a nerve. Not because it was trending, but because it was true. A black woman went viral asking a simple question. Why can't she turn on her TV and see black families winning anymore? Not surviving, not struggling, not killing each other selling drugs, just living. A mom and a dad in the house, kids being kids. Problems, yes, but hope too. And when she said it, I thought about it.
Why, as a black person, I can't turn on the TV and find not one single show that portrays my community in a positive light? We used to have Martin, we had Living Single, we had Sister, we had all that. We had a different world where black people was at college. We don't have not a single show that portrays us in a positive light. The whole Power Book series is so good, don't get me wrong. But in all of them, we drug dealers and murderers. A little black girl can't turn on the TV and see a mama and a daddy in a household thriving. It's either us doing something that's bad, or it's reality TV, which is just showing black women fight other black women over nothing, like men.
I grew up in a time where you saw black people on TV every week, and they were not all the same. We were poor sometimes, we were funny sometimes, we were struggling sometimes, but we were human all the time. I remember good times, James Evans working himself to the bone, not a kingpin, not a mobster, just a man trying to take care of his family. That mattered. Sanford and Son was funny, but it was real. A black man running a business, even if it was a junkyard. The Jeffersons showed us moving up, not because they cheated, but because they worked hard. Then the 80s hit, and black television hit a different stride. The Cosby Show changed everything. It didn't show us poor. It didn't show us broken. It showed us aspiring. Doctors, lawyers, a black family that loved each other, argued and laughed every week. And people love to argue about realism now, but back then, that image mattered because it gave kids permission to dream. It made success feel possible. A Different World took it further. That show sent kids to college. Literally. Applications went up after that show. People saw themselves there and said, why not me? Family Matters gave us Carl Winslow, a black man with authority and morals. Martin gave us laughter, pure laughter, for 30 minutes straight. No deals, no guns, just joy, just characters. Living Single showed black women with careers and friendships, not tearing each other down for attention. The Jamie Foxx Show, the Wayans Brothers, the Steve Harvey Show, the Bernie Mac Show. We had range, we had balance. Now here's the part people don't like to hear. Those shows were not real life either, but they were intentional. They were aspirational. And at that time, we still believed in the future. We still believed the system could change. We still believed hard work paid off. So the television reflected that belief. Fast forward to now, and the world feels different. People don't trust systems anymore. They don't trust institutions. They don't trust the future. And television follows that move. Today, what sells is dog. What sells is grit. What sells is violence and trauma. Because that's how people feel. Shows like Power and BMF dominated. And again, I'm not saying they shouldn't exist. I'm saying they shouldn't be the only image. Because of course, balance matters. When a kid turns on the TV now, what do they see? Hustling, backstabbing, prison, death. And when that's all you see, that becomes normal. Images go into the subconscious and stay there. And years later, people wonder why certain mindsets exist. This is part of why. Back then, TV planted seeds of possibility. Today, it plants seeds of survival. And survival is not the same as living. It never has been. This is not about going back in time. That's impossible. This is about asking an honest question. What are we feeding the next generation? Because what you watch as a kid don't leave you. It shapes you. And that's why this woman's question mattered. Not because it was emotional, but because it was accurate. Something is missing. And before we talk about why it changed, we had to remember what we lost. Now, this is where we get uncomfortable because we have to talk about us. Not just networks, not just executives, but audiences and appetites. Somewhere along the way, people stopped wanting to be inspired. They started wanting to be entertained at all costs. Inspiration requires patience. Entertainment requires shock. And shock is easier to sell, especially in a broken world. When life feels hard, people don't want fairy tales. They want validation. They want to see their pain reflected. They want to see their anger justified. That's where the shift happened, if you ask me. TV started mirroring delusion instead of possibility. Back in the day, we believed the system could work. So shows fed us that belief. Today, most people don't believe that no more. So shows feed distrust. Power works because people feel powerless. BMF works because people feel trapped. These stories hit because they match the mood, not because they healthy. And that's the part nobody wants to admit. Negative stories stick faster. They move easier. They go viral quicker. Peaceful success doesn't trend. Chaos does. This is why reality TV blew up. Conflict is cheap content. You don't have to write it. You just press record and let people self-destruct for views. That's the formula. And we click it over and over again. We say we want better representation, but we don't support it when it shows up. When positive black shows drop, we call them boring. We say they ain't real. It's too soft. But the truth is, they make us sick with ourselves. A lot of people don't want that. They want distraction. This is where the generation gap shows. Because when I grew up, TV was an escape. Now, TV is confirmation. Confirmation that life is hard. Confirmation that trust is dumb. Confirmation that love fails. That does something to your mind, especially a young one. When kids only see survival, they stop imagining stability. When they only see hustlers, they stop seeing careers. And this is not about pretending life is perfect. It never was. This is about balance and range. We used to see struggle and success side by side. Now, it's mostly struggle. Even the comedies are dark now. Even the laughter is laced with pain. That says something about where we are culturally. And here's the part that hurts. We help create it. By what we watch, by what we share, by what we support with our time. Networks don't push what's right. They push what works. And right now, dog works. Trauma works. Not because it's good for us, but because it matches the energy. So when that woman asked her question, it wasn't just about TV. It was about us losing the ability to imagine better. We more guarded now, more cynical, less hopeful, less patient. And television didn't cause that, but it reflects it perfectly. This is about awareness, about recognizing how far the pendulum has swung and what that does over time. Because when you starve people of hope, they stop reaching for it. The problem is not that times have changed. The problem is that our imaginations have shrunk. We started believing that struggle is the only real story and everything else is fate. That's not maturity. Somewhere along the way, we confuse being aware with being defeated. Yes, the system is broken. Yes, life is harder now. Yes, people are stressed, more guarded, more angry. All of that is true. But here's what else is true. We still need images of possibility. Not fantasy, not fairy tales, just possibility, balance, a full range of life, not just the worst parts. When everything we see is dull, it does something to the spirit. You stop believing in stability. You stop believing in peace. You start thinking chaos is normal. And that's the problem. Because when you normalize, you eventually accept. And what you accept, you stop questioning. This is why that woman's question matters so much. She wasn't asking for perfection. She was asking for representation. She was asking why our kids can't see a full life on screen. Why is it always extremities? Why are we either saints or savages? Never just people. Here's the hard part. Networks follow numbers. They don't lead the culture. They follow it, which means the shift won't come from them first. It's got to come from us, from what we support, from what we share. Positive black shows do exist today. They just quieter. They don't scream. They don't bleed. They don't trauma bait. So they don't get the same push. The Upshaws is a good show. The Neighborhood is a good show. They show black families with flaw and love, but they don't dominate the conversation. Why? Because they don't match the mood. And that's the real issue. Our mood is the culture. We tired, we disappointed, we overstimulated. And sometimes pain feels more honest than hope. But hope don't have to be naive. It can be grounded. It can acknowledge reality without surrendering to it. The shows we grew up on did that. They didn't ignore racism. They didn't ignore poverty. They just didn't let it be the whole story. Today, the whole story feels like it's collapsed into one note. And that note is pain. That affects kids even if they don't realize it. What you see at 10 years old can show up when you're 20. That's why images matter. They plant ideas, and ideas turn into beliefs, and beliefs turn into decisions. This is not about censoring. It's about adding context, adding range, adding possibility back into the mix. Because a culture that only sees destruction starts building less. This conversation is not about going back. It's about moving forward with a wider lens. We don't need to lie to our kids. We can't starve them a hope either. They deserve to see more than survival, more than poverty. They deserve to see possibility. And if we don't show it, we can't be surprised when they stop believing in it. I keep coming back to this one thought. We don't realize how much we absorb until years later. What we watch don't just enter our eyes. It settles in our expectations. It shapes what we think is normal and what we think is possible and what we think is out of reach. And that's the part I think people underestimate. When you're a kid, you don't question the image. You just accept it. You don't say, this is just TV. You say, this is life. That's why representation is not about pride. It's about direction. It's about seeing more than one ending, more than one path. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe, establish rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.